Oh, this is such a special day. I am finally having the great honor of sitting down with a newfound friend, a newfound woman, Sangeeta Pillai, who I met a few months back now, I would say back in December. And the minute Sangeeta entered the room, I knew my life had changed for the better. And so, without any further ado, just for now, before I fully introduce Sangeeta, just welcome to the podcast. And to listeners out there, you are in for a treat. Welcome, welcome, Sangeeta.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely overjoyed to be connecting with you again. Like you, I think that day when we met, I'm like, oh, there's a connection here. And, we feel these things. And I cannot wait to talk to you today.
Amazing. Okay, so lovely Sangeeta. I'm actually going to read out your bio because it's just, people need to know. You are a award-winning podcaster, author, and a feminist activist. You are the founder of South Asian feminist network, Soul Sutras. You're also recognized as a leading voice for the South Asian feminism globally. Your award-winning Masala podcast won 6 British Podcast Awards, 1 Audio Production Award, and the Spotify Sound Up 2018 Award. And your podcast was selected and sponsored by Spotify alongside illustrious women like Michelle Obama. You've also been featured extensively in global press such as BBC Radio, Guardian, Metro, Cosmopolitan, Evening Standard, Stylist, Eastern Eye, Huffington Post, and Deccan Herald. You've been on gigantic billboards in New York, London, Dublin, Cardiff, and Glasgow. You're also the creator of Masala Monologues, a series of writing workshops and theatre shows in the UK and the US. And you are a regular speaker at international feminist festivals like WOW Festival, Shameless Festival, Prima Donna Festival, as well as a regular speaker on lots of panels and podcasts for global companies like Walt Disney, Aviva, Mother Advertising Group, Mindshare, Mullen Love Group, and Times Education. And finally, your debut memoir, Bad Daughter, is an inspirational feminist story of your own journey from Mumbai slums to New York billboards, with a healing stopover in Kerala's temples. It is an empowering book for every woman who finally wants to break free from patriarchy. Thank you, thank you. Welcome to the podcast again. This is quite a bio, Sangeeta.
Thank you.
Oh
It's
my God.
really nice for me to hear someone read it because you know what it's like when you do the thing, you forget. And then when someone is like, yeah, I did that. Oh, yeah, I did that,
Oh my God, I really, really get that. And I also, but I really love that you didn't send me like a two-liner. Because, and especially for women, because so often,
Yeah,
we downplay our skills, we
yeah.
downplay our achievements, we don't want to stand out. I mean, you know all about this. So when I got that, I was like, yes, she is my kind of woman. Like, and then I really just wanted to take the time, and I'm so happy that you could feel, the gravity of everything that you've chosen to do, through that little reading. So I really appreciate that. But my lovely thing, I always take people back in time because I think in order for us to not just celebrate and be inspired by the woman you are today, it is so important that we understand, where you came from, and especially also so that so listeners out there can really relate, because it's so easy to be like, well, I just read this amazing thing, and we can all be like, wow, 1, 2, 3, look at me. But obviously, the more things you decide to really take action on in life, usually the more hardship you've been through. I mean, that is kind of, I just without going, you can go light, you can go deep. But please, my love,
Yeah.
let's go back. Where were you born, and what kind of family system were you born into?
So I was born in Kerala, which for those who don't know is in the southern part of India. It's a very tropical green land. But when I was 4, I moved to the slums of Mumbai. My father married my mother. It was an arranged marriage. And my mother didn't know she was going to be with her husband. And we turned up and realized that we lived in the slums. And a lot of traditional Indian marriages, there was no choice. Like she could never leave because when you got married at that time in that place, the thing that was said to you was like, this is your life now. That's your karma. You deal with it. So from the age of 4 to about 11, I lived in Mumbai slums. And when I say slums, I mean slums. There was no toilets. You had to queue up to use the toilet. There was no water. You had to queue up to get water in the morning. It was like one room and 5 of us, like 3 kids, mom and dad. We all slept in one room. There was no kitchen. There was nothing else. And that's kind of how I grew up. My father also was an alcoholic. He was very violent. So I didn't really have much of a childhood. It was just very, very traumatic, as you can imagine. He would really very violently attack my mother almost every night. And that's kind of how we grew up. And there was nowhere to escape because it was just one room. So my childhood and my beginning wasn't really the best, but I feel like everything in my life has come from that. I think we are very much a product of where we begin. I believe every one of us. I think that set me very firmly on the path of the feminist work that I do, because I saw every single day that my mother didn't have a choice. She couldn't go anywhere. She didn't have money. She didn't have a job. She didn't have anything. And she didn't believe that she could kind of leave that situation. So we all lived there. And I think seeing her suffer in that way really informed my life. Like without even, I didn't even have the words. I didn't know what feminist meant. I only learned the word feminist in my 30s. But I knew very, very clearly from my very young age that I would have a voice. I would have my own money. I would have a job. I would have a house. I would have everything that I needed to have a better life than my mother did. So that's really in a nutshell where I began. It is horrific, but it also has, led me on this path.
My God. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, the biggest thing that stood out to me was that thing when you shared about your dad and, the violence every night. I could really, I felt like goosebumps in my whole body. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know that this is many people's reality. So this is,
Yes.
not to take anything away from yours, but,
Yes.
we live here, like I live in London like yourself, and and we're like, oh, there's so many people everywhere, and it's like, well, there's nothing compared to so many, so many
Yes.
setups in this world. And the fact
Yes.
that you said that your mom, she felt she had no other choice, and of course, if she
Yes.
thought she had had a choice, she would have chosen
Of
differently.
course. Of course.
Thank you
I
so
know
much
that.
for your complete openness with such a challenging upbringing. But what I will say, what a little warrior, this thing that you were like, I knew. Somehow, someday, I will have my own money. I will have my own life. I will do my own, like, the fact that already at such a young age, that fire spirit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, so amazing. So talking of that, so what happened? So you were there. When did you start to notice? Did you grasp an opportunity? Did life give you? What happened from being there?
So it was very intuitive. Like nothing in my life has ever been planned. Like not one thing. I'm sitting here in front of you. Every single step that has taken me from that slum to now sitting in front of you has been divine, has been destined, has been intuitive. All I know at every point is that here's the next step and I must take the next step. And I don't know anything beyond that. But I always trust and I take that step. So like I was saying, grew up with this idea that I was going to do better and I was going to have a life of my own. But I had no idea how to do that. I was the first girl in my family to go to university, first girl in my family to have a job, So I knew that I had to get work. So I started working in advertising. I was like crazy about books. And someone once told me that as a copywriter, they will pay you to write. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's the kind of job I want, whether I can write all day. So I worked in advertising in Mumbai, moved to Bangalore, and then, kind of made money. moved to Bangalore, bought my own place, you know, so that's how it happened. So I think at every point, opportunities were never given to me. I found them. You know, I always found them. Like to move out of my home in Mumbai, because at that point, you know, girls wouldn't just leave. They would either get married, which I refused to do, or, you know, there's a saying in India at that time that either your funeral procession or your bridal procession leaves your mother's house, you know. So I
Wow.
was like, I thought I chose the third way. I took a taxi to the airport, you know. So that's kind of how I moved out, you know, and eventually got a really good job, was making my own money, ended up moving to the UK, continued working in advertising for many, many years. I've worked in advertising for 25 years. And about 8 years ago, I had a big kind of mental health crisis.
Mm.
And I think it came because I hadn't addressed any of the traumas in my life. My father's violence, my mother was murdered in 2003. There was just a lot of stuff, right? And I had never addressed it because I didn't know you could or you should. And I think the mental health just came in and just like knocked me off my feet. And I couldn't really function, couldn't work, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't do anything. And that started a big journey of healing, of spirituality, of connection, of trusting myself. So it was the worst thing at that time, but it was also the best thing now looking back, you know? And it's kind of brought me full circle to the work that I do because I needed to heal in order to help other people heal, which is what I do with my work. You know, I help South Asian women heal, really. So that's kind of how I came from there to here.
Oh my God, I love it. What an amazing story, Sangeeta. And also because, I know we kind of rushed through it a little bit because obviously this is your whole life history and we've summed it up in a few minutes, but the gravity and all of the untold moments within your sentences, right? So going from even because obviously there must have been so many conversations between you and your mom and your dad, when you wanting to leave and not getting married and you're going to new university and choosing a completely different path for yourself. And also what's interesting is you are the oldest daughter.
Yeah, the oldest daughter. Yeah.
Right. So again, you're setting that example for your younger siblings, but at the same time, quite often, the oldest one can feel so responsible for the younger siblings that it can feel almost impossible to break
Yeah.
an old system. So,
Yeah.
the way I see it, it's like you're standing in front of 2,000 people of army and you just have to find your own way, even though there were so many things kind of against you, like you finding your own way. And the fact that you not only creating this completely new and different and very successful life for yourself, but also, like you said, 8 years ago, the fact that you experienced what you experienced, this thing of like, okay, so I've been fighting my whole life, the outer enemies, the outer worlds, right? And then all of a sudden to go,
Yeah.
okay, because also, that kind of inner healing, as you know, it only happens when we've actually created an outsized safety structure, a structure where we're safe enough to finally internally we can collapse in on ourselves,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so exhale. So I can really, really, I can really feel and sense everything that you're sharing with us. I want to ask, during those 8 years, because of course, again, this would have been a big journey. Did you mainly spend time in the UK? Because I would imagine you would have traveled during those years. Were there special places you went to?
Yeah. So my healing journey was again quite non-linear, like the rest of my life. So I started with therapy, like most people do. I had 5 different therapists over 4 years. I didn't really get on with therapy. I just didn't feel like they understood me or, in any way. So I started looking at alternative therapies, hypnotherapy, craniosacral therapy, EMDR, acupuncture. I sort of explored a lot of these, and they all helped me hugely, I think. And then I think I got to a point in the healing where I was working with this Tantra practitioner, and she told me that you need to go back to where you came from, like you need to go back to Kerala. And I had rejected Kerala. I was born in Kerala, but didn't really live there. We used to go back for like school holidays and things. And to my mind, Kerala was really patriarchal, and it is, right? And I used to always say to people that I'm from Mumbai. I'm a Mumbai girl, right? Like, which is a big city like London. And I never used to say I'm from Kerala. And so 3 years ago, I went back to Kerala on my own for the first time, voluntarily. And then I traveled up and down the state on my own. I went to the beaches, I went to cities, I went to hills, I went to different places on my own. And when I was there, I discovered this whole goddess culture in Kerala, which I didn't really know existed. Every like half a kilometer, there's a goddess temple, and everybody prays to the goddesses, right? And there are these rituals, and there are these ceremonies, and they're amazing. And that's when I really reconnected with the deepest parts of myself, and started connecting with my roots, started speaking the language a lot more. And I found a lot of joy in speaking the language, which I never used to do, in eating the food and being part of that culture, because I think I needed to heal that very deep part of myself, and I hadn't been able to do that before. So 3 years ago was the first time that I went back, and I was there for I think about total maybe 2 weeks. I think that's all. And then last year I went back for 3 months. I stayed there to finish writing my book, because my book, a lot of it is set in Kerala. It's a memoir, and Kerala is almost like a character in the book.
Of course.
Stayed there, wrote the book, and this year I went back and I just bought a house there.
Oh my God. Wow. How beautiful. But also because the thing is like, it's kind of like, because life is a spiral, right? We go up, we go down, but it happens simultaneously. So it's like it's a full return, but it's also a new beginning. And you are not
Yes.
where you were when you left.
No.
You had to do that whole big leap.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
back into that center, right? And it's also, like you said, it's that goddess energy. And so it's like the energy that got you out of Kerala and that got you moving and all of that. It's such, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a beautiful energy, but it's
Yeah.
also, it's a very masculine, not in terms of men.
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
energy, right? It's like, rah,
Yes.
action, go,
Yes.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then go back and, like you said, to discover, like, well, there's the divine feminine, and she's blossoming, and she is actually abundant here, and she exists here, and to reconnect with her, and then all of a sudden you decide to buy a house, to put
Yes.
roots. It's wow, this is amazing.
And not just that, like the reason about the house is, one is I love it, and I want to be part of that land now, the land of kind of where I come from. But also I want to take other women out there to experience it. So I ran my first ever retreat in Kerala this year. I think I told you when we met. And it was so beautiful that I want to take a lot of women from the West to Kerala so they can experience this goddess energy that I experienced. And my home will be a retreat space as well as a home. So it's like full circle. I think that is full circle.
Oh my God. Absolutely. It's so beautiful. Wow. And to listeners out there, if you're not watching the video, me and Sangeeta are just having a knowing, loving, loving look.
We are.
I feel you. And if I could extend my arms through the screen, my God, what an incredible story, Sangeeta. If I may ask, have you given your home a name yet?
Not yet, and that's going to be a big part of this journey. So I bought it very quickly before I was supposed to leave, and it all happened, like I was telling you, these things happen in my life so unplanned. I was in the same place that I really like. It's called Fort Kochi, which is a little bit European, a little bit Kerala. It's a really cool place. And somebody said, "Oh, there's a new house on the market." And I'm like, "Oh, maybe." I'd looked at one house. This was the second house, right? That's how non-serious I was. I went, And as soon as it was 8:30 in the morning, as soon as I walked in, I knew. And in 5 minutes, it takes me longer to like choose a dessert, like which cake I'm going to eat. Like it's quicker. I said, yes, I want this place, and I gave the deposit. So it was just so beautiful. And I've kind of started the process of doing it up because it needs a little bit of work. And I know that the naming of it is going to be quite a big part of this, you know? So I don't know yet, but I have a sense of it's going to be something around being a retreat or female or divine or something. I don't know. So there are words, they'll come.
Oh, absolutely. And this also, now listening to your story, and it just makes so much sense why we chose to have this moment together, Sangeeta. Because, I don't know if I shared with you like that evening when we met, but my whole life has been the same.
Really?
I've been self-employed my entire life. I have never sat down, done any kind of business plan, done any kind of anything. But like similar to you, when you said, opportunities weren't given to me, but I found them, like I saw them, right? And it's the same thing, I've always just honestly, whether it was driven from a space of pain or whatever it was, I always saw an opportunity. I always was like, okay, I'm feeling this way. What is drawing me? What is meeting me? What is opening? And that's, and I mean, very few people live like that. And it's
Yeah. People think I'm crazy, like, in interviews, I get interviewed a lot. And they're like, so what was your like business plan or objective, or what did you set out to do? And I'm like, nothing. Like really zero. I have never sat down and for a moment thought about, right, that's what I'm going to do. Never. All of this is just occurred.
But also it's not only, again, like not only is it an inspiring way to live, but it's empowering because you're constantly in co-creation with life. Because
Yes.
I always say, like, you're walking down the street. I'm not, I might be planning to go to the beach or whatever, but I can't plan or predict who I'm going to meet along the way. In fact,
Yes.
I can't even plan or predict if I'm going to make it to the beach, not to sound
Yes.
rude, right? But so all I can do is be really present with
Yeah.
the street, have a little smile, whatever is going on.
Yeah.
And if a bird
Yeah.
flies straight into me, maybe I should look the other way. Like,
Yes.
because we overcomplicate life so much.
We do. And also the times we live in, we are taught that everything's got to be planned and points, and before you like, I don't know, before 7 a.m. you've got to like have run 20 miles and done a cold water plunge and eaten 20 vitamins, and everything's supposed to be like so planned. I mean, I just don't live like that. Nor do I want to.
Good. And also because the thing is, it's like, and now that we can, on our phone, we can pretty much ask for anything,
Yes.
we plan anything. And then when something doesn't go to like inverted commas to plan, we freak out. We're
Yes.
like, what is
Yes.
happening?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's like, oh my God, what just happened? I can't. Yeah, it's insane.
Oh my God. So I love that. And that just, honestly, it feels so good to me because it's, also like most of my life like okay, so for the podcast I sit down in front of the computer, but again that's that's a bridge so you and I can connect in real
Yes.
time. Yay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Anything where I'm like I have to sit down and I have to kind of do this very linear schedule thing, or
Yeah.
I was like, can't you just plan your retreats 2 years in advance? And I'm like, no, I cannot. I actually only work from like intuition, and intuition for me is a sense of
Yeah.
joy. It's a calling.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not just a calling, like a kind of like like a boring, not a boring, but like a heaviness, like a gravity. It's a
Yes.
come on, I have to do this.
Yes.
The same way,
Yes.
your not your word, your name kept being in my head, and so I was like, I must contact Sangeeta.
Yeah.
And that is it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is literally as simple as that. It is literally as simple as that. And people don't understand, and people think we're crazy when we say that. Even my book, I just knew I had to write this book. There's no rhyme or reason. And at that particular time, like last year, I needed that book to be out. It was very, very important.
Exactly.
And that's it.
But that's it. And so with my first book, I had the same thing, because first I was walking around. It was COVID times, and I was like, I know I have to do this now, because if I don't do it now, I will never do it. I thought all of a sudden I had more space during COVID, right? And then I was like, oh, so the part of the writing thing excited me. But then I had this second thought, which was like, everyone was like, oh, who's going to publish it? And I was like, I'm not even going to think about that. And then in the end, I had this very strong, like, it has to be out in the world before the end of 2020. That was just my really strong feeling. So I was like, I'll self-publish. It needs to be out. It's not about anything else. I had a story. How it goes. The people that needs to read it will read it. The end.
Yeah.
No more time to that.
Yeah. Exactly.
But talking of your book, so will you tell us a little bit? So tell us, you said you had this, I have to write the book. Do you remember when about that feeling came about?
So I've been writing it on and off for about 7 years. It took a long time, and it changed a lot during that time, because I changed a lot during that time, right? But last year, I knew that the book had to come out last year, 2025. And so I took myself off to India, to Kerala. I rented a flat, and literally all I did in that flat was just to write, right? Like, I shut everything else down. I didn't do the podcast. I didn't do any of my talks. I didn't do webinars. I didn't do anything, just the book. And again, like you, where I had an agent, and we pitched to lots of publishers, and they all said, oh, it's an amazing book, it's a brilliant story, but we don't think there's a market for this, because it doesn't fit into any one of their little boxes of what it is, right? So I also decided the same thing. I'm like, well, screw it, I'll publish it myself. And I went to India, came back exactly this time last year. And then 6 months, I taught myself everything there was to know about publishing, like how to get it into bookstores, how to put it on Amazon, how to do a cover design, how to find an ISBN number. I did all of that. And in September, I launched the book in London. I had a beautiful book launch in Soho. Again, I arranged it myself. I had a book launch in Kerala, because it felt like it was really important for the book to be launched in Kerala also, and also in Bangalore, which is another city. And I did my first book festival in Kerala also. It's a really big, well-known newspaper, like almost like the Times here, called the Mathrubhumi. And they have a beautiful book festival every year. I went along and did the book festival, and I spoke about the book. So I just knew it had to be out last year, like that. I knew that. And then I worked very hard to make it happen.
Absolutely amazing. So good. I have to say, I was hoping that I would have gotten around, and I feel very embarrassed on my side. I will read your book. I have not read
That's fine.
But just because I was like, I will read the book and then we can talk about that. And I was like, oh my God, now there's no time. But I look forward to reading your book. Can I ask, because I really love this thing, what a process. So to write something on and off for 7 years. And as you said, because you changed, and then the book changed, and then also because we're always in relationship. I think so, if people out there, as a listener, if you don't write long books, or you don't write a lot, anything you do in life, it's always a relationship, and so it changes, right? The book has a life of its own, and it will challenge you, and you will challenge the book, and it's a really beautiful experience. But to have the ability, to know, okay, I need to pause this for a moment, and then to pick it back up, for me is an incredible sign of resilience, stamina, knowing yourself, and also really writing the book for the right reasons.
Exactly. I think as a writer, the hardest thing you'll ever do is write a book, because it's like a marathon. It's a long thing, it's going to take a long time. And if you're one of those writers, like, right, in X amount of time, I need to do, obviously I have deadlines and it helps, right? But it's going to take the time it's going to take. you
Mm.
know, and it almost has a life of its own, and it talks to you and it tells you what it needs to be.
Mm.
And we are almost co-creators, the book and the author. And you have to kind of go on that journey with the book and allow the book to be what it wants to be. Like initially when I started, it was the what I was trying to do was like it was like a memoir, but also a manifesto, blah blah blah. And I kept doing it, and it just didn't work. I did, but there was something not quite right. And the minute I just decided, like, why am I trying to write the book that I think people want,
Mm.
right? And then I just decided to like write the book that I want to write, and
Mm.
then it just flowed. So it's a real process, as you know, from having written books yourself.
Oh, but I love that, Sangeeta. It's so true. Like, why am I trying to write this thing that I think this is what people want to hear, right? And you're
Exactly.
forcing yourself into some weird mold that was never yours and it never felt like home. And then I could imagine you also must have had a voice in your head that was like, seriously, Sangeeta, you've put yourself through all these crazy things in your life. Like you walked away from the dad and the household and and you fought so many wars. And then here you are not being fully yourself.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Because it resonates
Yeah.
so much with me because in my own life, I mean, again, different stories to you, but the underlying emotional drive, I have done so many things in my life, where I had to just count on myself and trust in myself and catch myself and all the rest of it. And then again, in little scenarios in life, I'll find myself and and I'll put on some little mask and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, seriously, Josie, we went through all this hardship so you can stand here and not be fully yourself.
Exactly.
So I like, oh, I did this resonate so deeply. So that's okay, amazing. And so now you're back in London because we've
Yeah.
been speaking a few times when you were in India, and I'm
Yes.
like, when are you coming back? I'm here waiting. I can't wait for this conversation. How long have you been back in London, Sangeeta?
So about 2 weeks.
Oh
Been back
wow!
about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Ah, amazing. And apart from being cold, because I saw you're sitting there with your hot water bottle. Otherwise, how is it being back? Because we're always
Yeah.
we're ever
We
changing
are. We
and
are.
changing world.
That's a really good question because it's very much touching upon where I am in it.
Mm,
So London, I've been in the UK for 20 years, and London and this home in London has been like a sanctuary that I've built. It's been somewhere that's allowed me to grow, allowed me, you mentioned being somewhere safe enough to collapse inwards. This was the space that I could do it, you know. It's by the canal and it's got a beautiful vibe and all of that. But I'm now at a place where this feels like it's in the past and I'm moving and I can sense the next movement. Um, and I I don't even know where it's going to be. I have no idea. I love London and I will always love London, but it feels like I need to be somewhere else doing something else. I'm not sure what it is yet. And part of it could be the retreats that I'm about to run in Kerala. So initially, what my plan is to spend half a year there and half a year here. So kind of go over there September and be there until March and come back here April to whatever, August, September, whatever that is. That's initially the plan because there's a part of us that is constantly evolving and growing. And mine it's taken me to so many places, from the slums to Bangalore to London, from a marriage to being single to dating to being on my own to, like to buying this home to going back to Kerala. There's just so many evolutions of me that have happened. And sometimes it's almost too much where that part of me is like, oh my God, more change. Like, really? I've just done this, So part of me can be resistant, has been for a little while, but I'm now coming to accept because letting go of London is proving to be very hard for me. It was the safety. And it's almost like feeling like I've got to do this bungee jump of somewhere without really knowing where I'm going to land. But that's kind of the space I'm in right now.
oh
I
my
don't know
God.
if that makes any sense to you, but that's kind of where I am.
No, it makes so much sense. That's why my eyes are bigger than ever. Like they're about to pop out. Because basically, it is so similar to my own journey. First of all,
Wow.
yeah, no, it's so wild, Sangeeta, because first of all, I have also been in London for what is it, 24 years now.
Wow.
And it's that thing of here in yeah, it was just before I met you. You were going away to India, and I was going to Thailand, right?
Yeah.
And with this whole Thailand thing, because again, there wasn't really a plan, and all I knew was that I'd said I'm going to be away for a month, and I similar to you, I really love London, and London is also it's really where I don't know if we ever grow up because we're always changing, but it was where I went from my mother's childhood home to 16 by myself living in London, right? So I absolutely, London and I grew up together, and
Yes.
London, gave me so much of why I can have the everyday experiences and the amazing people like yourself that I meet. And so anyway, to all of a sudden take this month out and then to be there and then fall in love with the place and the people. And similar to you, I went there and all of a sudden it was like Soho House, Bangkok was like, oh, can you come and do this talk? Like out of nowhere, like things were so easy. And then I would do someone's yoga class, and it turns out she has her boyfriend that's Danish and I'm Danish. There were so many links.
Yes.
And I was there, and then we were staying in this beautiful little Airbnb, and swimming in the morning, and and I was
Wow.
swimming, and looking at the beautiful blue sky with the sunshine, and in winters are so dark here, right?
Yes.
And I was just looking at the sunshine, and I noticed my brain was like, normally I would be excited to go back to London, and my brain was starting to go, ooh, only 5 more days left, only 4 more days, and then all of a sudden I was like, I was like,
Yes.
how can't this be my life? Like
Yes.
I didn't ask to be working over here, but the work keeps coming at me, and so.
Yes.
So why am I going back to something that I know and yes, that I love, but why not that and that? Why, because exactly the same as you, that thing of, and then when you mentioned that thing of change and you're like, okay, well, this has been my sanctuary. And there was the time when I was married, and then I was by myself. And then, you've been 1,000 different women.
Yes. That's exactly how I feel.
I've also been 1,000 different women, and there are times where sometimes, again, they're going in and collapsing down. There are times where I'm like, I feel myself literally face on, heart to heart with the earth and the floor of my home, and I'm just, can we just rest here for a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
But then there is that thing again, like we are ever-changing beings in an ever-changing world, and we are not meant to stay the same, and so.
Yes.
Like to not resist that change, because it was the same. We came back here, and it was the first time where I didn't want to come back in the 24 years.
Wow.
So, that says something. And,
Yeah. And if I might share, this is why we were supposed to meet. I
please.
think it's very clear why we were supposed to meet. So all of last year, I've walked around and I've loved the city very passionately, because it's given me so much. It's given me independence. It's given me this career as a podcaster and writer and speaker and all these other things. And it's given me safety, which for me is quite difficult because of my kind of trauma background.
Of course.
And I have loved the city very passionately, almost like a person, But I walked, but I've walked around all of last year and last week as well, like looking at like a dead relationship. It's felt like that. It's like all the memories of who I was when I lived here kept coming back to me. Like, but clearly that's London is in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it from here now, and that is in the past. That's the old relationship. Like almost looking at this big love that you had, but it's kind of gone now. And feeling this grief. I've been feeling a lot of grief about letting it go. So it's been quite a difficult time. But at the same time, I know that I'm just now supposed to move or do something else. And that's the challenge, where you're not shown what that something else is like. In my case, there's no work in Kerala. I mean, at the moment, like my work is here. I bought this house, but I'm going to do retreats, but nothing exists at the moment. There is nothing, there's a zero.
Mm.
So it's quite nerve-wracking to then jump to zero with nothing there. But that's what I'm being called to do. And that's the story of my life. I'm asked to do this every couple of years. I'm asked to change everything. And
Mm.
I just have to follow.
Ooh. It's like again, are you into astrology? I can't remember.
Yes. Yes.
This scorpion energy is this complete transformation to the root, to the bottom and up.
Yes, exactly. To the bottom and up.
Leave
Exactly.
no bone unturned.
I like that. Leave no
I,
bone
you know, I
unturned.
really get it. I was in like about in the 2022, my whole life again turned upside down, but to the point where this was ending, this was ending, this was ending, like everything was ending, and
Yes.
even my beloved cat of 11 years, me and Sky died. Everything was just.
Yeah.
And I knew I kept telling myself, I know through this on the other side, this is
Yes.
the clearing, this is
Yes.
good, but holy shit, right? So anyway, I was in
Yes.
Bali and I'm walking up, wandering the lands by myself, and then I stumble upon this lovely little Balinese man in the middle of nowhere on a little mountain, and he's painted this Buddha, and it says something along the lines of everything that has a beginning has an end. Recognize
Beautiful.
that, and all will.
Wow. Wow.
Right.
Wow. I can feel that in my body.
Me too.
Wow.
I got goosebumps.
Wow.
So it's exactly that, and like this thing of and I also find it hilarious because in terms of human behavior, we live in this complete illusion, that
Yes.
we are guaranteed anything, and
Yes.
we run around and we're like savings account, and you must go over there, and why haven't you called me? And my bus
Yes.
for what?
Yes. For what? So true. So true. We're acting as if like we are these sure like we're here and we have every right to be here and it must be like this and it must be like that. And when in fact the truth is nothing must be anything.
No, that's exactly it. And I keep reminding myself, I'm like, hey, Josie, there was life before you arrived, and there will be life long, long after we are gone, right?
Exactly.
It's,
Exactly.
instead of trying to resist and fight and
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
so it doesn't mean I don't take any action, and it doesn't mean I don't put energy into doing
Yes.
the best that flowing towards what feels good. But if something is absolutely pushing into my
Yes.
face,
Yes.
instead of being frustrated at life as if life
Yeah. Yeah. Accept it. Sit back. Exactly. Exactly. But isn't it funny how we are as humans? We resist so much.
oh,
So much, right? We fight and we fight and we,
me too.
oh my God.
Actually, I want to share this. You know what is so funny as well, exactly with that, because so over the last few years, actually, going back, I came to London. The first 2 years was a complete mess. I was living in 14 different places in a matter of 2 years. I cannot recommend it. That's too much change too soon. But anyway, then when I finally found a place, kind of similar to where you're at now, it was my sanctuary. I was there for 14
Mm,
years.
mm,
I was like, finally, whew. Then I ventured out. Once I ventured out, moved in with an ex-boyfriend now. And then after that, I had this very lots of little changes of homes.
mm,
And it
mm.
was so funny because I remember, talking to my mom, and I was running out looking at all the different homes. And my mom was like, send a photo, and she's like, oh, that's so beautiful. And, my mom said, it's such an upgrade. But, we fall in love. And once we're in love, because in the beginning in love, anything is a relationship in life. And
Yes.
availability, like, can I trust you? And then we get a little closer, and a little closer. And then all
Yes.
of a sudden, when we decide we love the other person, no one will compare and nothing will compare. So it didn't matter that my little house was teeny tiny and walls were falling down. I loved it, And then when I showed my mom the new home, and she's like, it's an upgrade. And I was like, I know you're right, logically. But right now my heart is hurting. I am grieving the letting go.
Yes.
Once this new home has become my new love, in a while, in its own time, I will be totally smitten with this new home, and then I will not want to let that one go because that is just human behavior.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
What are we supposed to
Ah,
do? Cheers to
I
that.
know. Cheers to that.
Oh, my love. Okay, so you are here. you know that you are kind of in this in-between state, just like myself, which is so interesting. And what is also so funny is that, no, this is another thing, the in-between. You were saying, oh, I'm thinking maybe 6 months here, 6 months there. Let's see what happens, but that could be a thing. And this is exactly what I'm thinking. Like so far, the whole of winter somewhere.
Yeah, away. Exactly. Exactly.
Because why not?
Why not? Exactly.
Possible for you? Then, and if,
Yeah.
and now this was the first time where I had sunshine for that whole month, and I just felt so alive instead of being here. And and again, still love London, and if your life is different, then all the love, and that's good. But if we have a choice,
Yes.
then why don't we choose it? We
Exactly.
can't help us.
And crucially, a lot of people don't allow themselves that choice. This is really important because you may be able to, but because we are taught to just be happy with what you have, and at least you've got this. And, we're taught to chase the external. Just if you're feeling sad, just buy yourself a new dress. If you're feeling whatever, have another drink. Whatever, we're taught to numb our feelings with all these external things, and we are taught to just stay in this kind of wheel of consumption and being, and we're not a lot of us don't allow ourselves because it's scary. Choice is also scary, so for you and for me, like going off like to somewhere without really any idea of what we're doing is scary, but also amazing. So I think that's an important thing, that we allow, or we are allowing ourselves a choice. We know that it's good for us. For me as well, I am not good in the winter. Like I have really bad SAD. So when I'm away, I'm like a different person. Like even having come back in 2 weeks, and it's still bright now. It's not. I'm like this. I'm sleeping a lot, eating a lot. I don't feel like doing anything. My body is just very stagnant. That's how it feels. Because I don't, cold doesn't suit me.
Yeah.
So the choice and the chance of being away somewhere for 6 months where it's sunny every day and beautiful has its own challenges, but it's a better alternative, and we are allowing ourselves that choice. So I just wanted to say that because that's important, and a lot of people don't.
It's so true. Absolutely. And again, it's that same story of like, well, to the outside world, this is what we do, and just get on with it, and don't be ungrateful, and just reframe it in your mind, and all the rest.
Yeah.
Again, and this is really the thing, because this is what I kept thinking. We came back, and that thing, I was swimming on top of that building, and I was like, why couldn't this be my love? And I was doing
Exactly.
And again, everyone is different. But again, I have, work was, all these opportunities were coming at me. I've been self-employed my entire life. Like, I came to London at 16 by myself. Like, I will find a way. But if it comes from joy, like if it genuinely feels like this is where I need to be right now, right?
Yes.
So then of course, adult Josie, or protector Josie, whatever you want to call, of course, was like, oh, but you have responsibilities at home and this and that. And I was like, yeah, but even with responsibilities, I clients, there is always a conversation, and my poor clients would hate it if they knew that they're like somehow in my own mind, I'm keeping myself prisoner.
Yes, exactly.
So exactly like you said, if we have a choice in whichever capacity, sometimes the choices can only exist within our mind, but then at least let's allow ourselves to feel what our heart truly wants to feel, with no judgment and no shame, and also without even knowing the solution, right?
Yeah.
At least open up to the fact that actually, just like you, I'm pointing at you, sir, baby. Just like you, I'm a solar powered being.
Yeah.
Everyone is different, but I am the same. In the darkness and in the coldness, like I came back and I was grieving the sun, Yeah, it's just, and then you have this weird cycle where I then felt ashamed that I was grieving. And
Yes.
myself, and I was like, no, Josie, this is all good stuff. Now you've had this experience, and now you can make, new choices. And again, listeners out there, whether you are into moving to another country or whatever, the principle is the same.
Yes.
Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Try to not shame it or blame it, and know that just because your parents did, your generation did something different, or just because your peers didn't, your peers are doing something different. If that is not for you, if that is not making you feel alive, then please don't do it.
Exactly.
Your life, right?
Exactly. 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 Allow yourself the choice.
I love that. Sangeeta, my love. I want to also say I love your earrings. You've got these, and I can
Thank you.
like every now and then you get this like click, 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 click.
I shouldn't be wearing these actually in podcast to terms. I was like, damn, but I love these. I've got these and I really like them. So I
But
just like,
no,
it's
they have
okay.
to be there. It is so good. And it's, for me, it's also because, like I told you the first time we met, like your name, it sounds like a song. It's like singing, right?
It's music. Sangeet is music. Yeah.
Exactly. And so for me, you need that vibration. It's so good that you have them there. It's actually keeping your energy really high. So I love.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I
No,
love that.
absolutely.
Ah,
I
love that.
have something I always ask
Yeah.
my lovely friends, Sangeeta, and I know it's a big question, so feel free to answer in part one, ABC. um, with everything that you've been through in your life, and the choices that were made for you, and the choices that you made yourself. Every time you said yes to something, every time you said no to something. If you had just one or two soul messages for humanity, what would they be?
Wow. That's a big question, a beautiful question. Um, I think to remember that we are not even a speck in this infinitely massive, massive, massive universe. We are not even a zillionth of a speck. That's how small we are. And to tell ourselves that I mean, obviously we have problems, we have pain, we have grief, we're born in this world and we suffer. But if we are able to kind of put it into context and think about all the lives that have come before us and all the lives that will come after us, it helps me that knowing that. It always helps me. That's one. Second, probably is something we touched upon, that there is no one way to do anything in life. Like nobody has it figured out. Everybody pretends, everybody acts like they have it figured out, but they haven't. Um, Trust your own inner light and your own inner voice above and beyond everything else. Like we live in a time of like everyone's an expert and we're supposed to listen to other people, but our bodies are wiser beyond words. So trust yourself, listen to your own body, your voice, whatever you want, intuition, whatever name you want to give it. That would be another soul message, I think. And is there a third one? Try and have fun. That's one for myself as well, because tend to get quite serious. I'm quite a serious person. And then when I have fun, I'm like, oh my God, it's so much fun to have fun. Like I forgot. So try and have fun. And whatever that looks like for you, each of us has a different way of having fun. But try and have fun. So that will be my third. And that's it.
That is just absolutely perfect, Sangeeta. It's been such a joy to have you here, and I just want to say, like, I cannot believe it. Like, your soul messages are literally like hearing my own voice.
Oh,
It's wild because it's always what I do whenever I get so caught up in my own life and oh, I must do this and that and whatever, and I'm always like, hang on. There were all these people before, and there are all these people after, and then it's also like you're part of something so much bigger.
yes.
Like you said, we are a teeny tiny speck, and remembering that and honoring that, and that's not to say we don't care about our own life, but it does mean perhaps we can take it a little more lightheartedly. We're
Yes.
doing our best. And
Yes.
let's not forget to have fun. Oh my God. Sangeeta, this has been beyond, fun, beautiful, loving, absolutely amazing. Of course, I will put all the links in the, not the snow, but the show notes. Is
We can do it in the snow notes as well.
right? Anything, anything lining up at the moment that where you would like people can come and find you, people can do a thing with you. Is there anything?
Yeah, I mean, by all means, anyone listening, follow me on Instagram. I'm Soul Sutras. I've got a website. I think Josie's going to put the links. I have a book out called Bad Daughter. So these are the things. I'm speaking at a couple of events in the summer. There's a podcast show in London where I speak every year. I'm speaking at a library in a couple of weeks about the book. So there's bits and bobs, but just come say hello on Instagram. I'm always happy to chat. And yeah, just say hi. That's it.
I love it. Sangeeta, it's been such a joy having you on here. Just stay on the line for a moment. And listeners, thank you so much for listening. This has been such a joy.
Thank you so much.